wanted something like this my whole life. Maybe I'm afraid of being homesick.
Guess who's back in town?
Plans for lunch?
Seeing somebody.
Yeah, I know. It's a little old for you.
Hello.
This month, the Hallmark Channel kicked off a new 13-episode series starring Golden Globe nominee Andie MacDowell. Cedar Cove is based on the novels by best-selling author Debbie Macomber. She has more than 170 million copies of her romance novels in print worldwide.
We just saw a little promo in that introductory piece. You've got a big event coming up with your Cedar Cove book series. Tell us about that. That's happening soon.
Well, I have to say, there is a verse in Scripture, it's in Ephesians, where God does above and beyond anything we can even ask or think. I never dreamed that I would have a TV series based on my stories.
Now, how Andie MacDowell is going to be in
wonderful.
this? Yes, wonderful actress. How involved are you? Like, once they buy the rights to be able to do something like this, do they keep you there for?
They have been marvelous. I'm an executive producer, which means basically I get to read and approve all of the scripts.
Wow.
And I've done a couple of site visits now, and the Hallmark people are amazing to work with. I feel very blessed to work with them.
You were diagnosed with dyslexia.
Yes, I was.
How did you discover that you had this, actually? It wasn't as a child. You actually had children of your own, didn't you, by the time you realized you had it?
I did. I just always thought I was dumb. The third grade teacher told my mother, Debbie's a nice little girl, but she's never going to do well in school. And I didn't.
Wow.
Well, they didn't have a word for it back then. They said I had word blindness. And so I struggled all through school. And it was only when my own children were diagnosed that I realized.
So how did you, because you wanted to write from the time where you were young, how did you keep that dream alive in you when obviously reading had to be a challenge? So how did you love writing?
I love telling stories. It wasn't the writing, it was the storytelling. And the only way I can think to describe it, Terry, is when I was a kid, I would dream about writing books, and I would just throb with joy. There was just that passion God planted in my heart from the young age. But when you have that kind of background where you struggle all through school, that I just never told anyone, because I knew the minute I did, they would say, well, you can't do that, or you're a creative speller, or you don't get good grades in English. And
so it was a hidden dream, really.
A hidden dream.
And yet, like most authors, you faced rejection after rejection. How did you keep your hope up?
You know, God gave me this dream. And so I just said, you know, Lord, you gave it to me. You're going to have to see it to fruition.
Yes.
And he did.
Yeah. You know, you talk about God seeing it through to fruition for you. You didn't always have a close personal relationship with the Lord. In '72, that really started for you, right?
It did.
How'd that come about?
A neighbor lady invited me to Bible study fellowship, and I had never been inside of a Protestant church in my life. I had been raised Catholic, and here I was in this Protestant church at the orientation class, and the teaching leader, out of all the women that were there, came up to me and stuck her hand out and introduced herself, and she said, my name is, and it was my maiden name.
Oh, my goodness.
And it was as if God was saying, this is home, this is family.
It's safe. Yeah, it's safe. How does your faith influence your writing?
In everything. You cannot separate a Christian from the author, you know, so I don't write necessarily Christian books, but I write from a Christian perspective. Yeah. Now, my characters aren't perfect. They make mistakes. They may do the wrong thing, but they suffer the consequences.
Yeah. How do you come up with a concept for what you do? I'm always curious about that, especially with someone who writes prolifically. I mean, we're going to talk in a minute about the fact that you have a brand new book, but even as this one is out, are you already working on the next one?
Yes, oh yes.
She said joyfully.
I am a storyteller, and because I have so many stories, I had to decide a way to which stories to develop. So the story, the premise, whatever idea I have, has to be provocative. I want my readers to think. It has to be relevant to their lives. I have to tell it in the most creative way. It has to be realistic, and it has to be entertaining.
How long does it take you to write a book?
Well, I don't mean to sound flippant, but it just takes as long as it takes. And every book is different. It depends on what else I have going on in my life. But about 3 months. And then, you know, 3 months to do the actual writing, but there's always the prep work before and the prep work after.
You have a new book out. For those of you who are fans of Debbie's, you're going to want to get a hold of this. For those of you who aren't, you're about to become one if you read it. This is called Starting Now. When you write a book, how much of this is based on your life?
Well, you cannot escape, you know, the author is very much present. I wanted to do something that was provocative and relevant. And in this story, it's about second chances. We serve a God of 20, you know, second, third, fourth, and fifth chances.
Yes.
And this is about somebody who's so focused in their lives that God sends them what they need, not what they want.
But there's a message there, isn't it? And you have, I thought as I was reading this book, this is a lady who's a knitter. You have two loves, writing and knitting, and you use your knitting to help other people.
You know, knitters by nature are just generous people, and to be able to work with Knit for Kids is just an amazing. That's a department of World Vision, and so we're knitting for kids all over the world.
What a great idea! What a fascinating book. Debbie's latest book I want to mention again is called Starting Now. It's available, of course, wherever books are sold because it's on it will be on every good list like the rest of them. It's great to have you here. It's so nice to meet you in person. What an inspiration!
Oh, thank you, Terry.
Yeah,
Thank
blessings
you.
to you as you keep on doing what God's gifted in you.